Animal honey.
All right, and we're live, and we are in what is it, session 12 of the Sword of the Dales. This is a 3-module campaign that we've been running. We're in the second module now, which is called something of the Spiderhaunt. I don't really remember the official title, but that's okay because we really don't need to know the official title to play. So how are you all tonight? When we get ready, it's nighttime for us, but we'll get ready to play. You guys ready to die because we're down 1 player?
Oh yeah, every time.
Sure.
Perfect.
I almost die every time anyway.
Perfect. And I'm surprised, Carol, because you have that big burly bear that likes to run away.
Yeah, she's kind of wimpy.
Well, the question of whether we die or not is if we have a cart or not. Because if we have a cart, we have that +8 to cart attacks. Remember?
Right, and it triples on its criticals.
Yeah, triple crits. So,
but you guys do not have a cart with you. If I remember correctly, you guys could not bring a cart into the woods. So you have some horses, and actually, you had recovered some extra horses too after you guys defeated the Zhentarim in the last session. So yes, so Marquise can't make it tonight. So Sui will be taking a back seat to the rest of you. So you guys will be front and center. And when we played last time, what had happened was you guys had entered the Spiderhaunt Wood with the purpose of looking for the owner, the descendant that truly should be carrying the Sword of the Dales, which Sui carries. And in your trek into the forest, you encountered some of the forces of the Zhentarim. There was a pretty brutal fight was had, and you guys were victorious, but not without, I believe, Loralynn was knocked unconscious and sustained a kind of a brutal injury that caused her to now have this limp that would need to be taken care of. So you were able to defeat these Zhentarim. You found their camp and you looted that, found some extra horses there, some of their gear, and you guys continued along the trail in the Spiderhaunt Wood. And sometime later that day, you guys came across this rather lively young gnome who was trying to shove a rather large spider into this cage. And after seeing him do this, you guys engaged him in a conversation, and he told you that his name was Mattern, and he was more than willing to bring you to his village of Stormpinhotter. We were talking about that before we went live about how D&D likes to give these crazy names to silly villages, but Stormpinheimer is the Stormpinhotter. We might just rename this town just to make it simple. But Stormpinhotter is the town that he said he was taking you to. And that's where we ended last session and where we pick up now. So you guys have been traveling with Madarn for better part of an hour now. And in that whole time, as he's kind of leading this cart that he has, look out, Loralynn, there's a cart that has this large cage with a spider on it. And the spider's kind of wiggling around in this. It obviously does not like being in this cage, and he's just chatting you guys up the whole time, asking you guys questions. What are your names? Where are you from? Are you adventurers? You know, how many dragons have you killed? Are they as hard to kill as I've heard? I mean, those sorts of questions. And I'm just curious, you know, how forthright are you with this this kind of joyous little gnome?
I imagine Sly, being the people person that he is, would probably, try and magnetize as much of his attention as possible. And, he would try and give some general information, but try to leave out some of the specifics, probably why they're there or anything. He would come up with some believable lie, that they're just on a quest or something like that. But keeping, Sui in the back of his mind and her, evil glare that he would feel giving away any valuable information that might jeopardize them. He would kind of keep it on the minimum, but try and make up a story or something about how they met and why they're there.
Perfect. Yeah, he's pretty receptive to all that, Sly, and doesn't seem to question you much. As you mentioned, Sui, you've noticed she's unnaturally quiet. She's just kind of walking behind, like she's lost in some sort of contemplation. And I guess you would think back to the battle you had with the Zhentarim, and as she charged towards them rather recklessly, and you think of the magic that one of these wizards cast at her, and it was actually reflected back upon the wizard. I think both to the wizard and Sui's surprise. So it would not be a stretch of the imagination to think that Sui is trying to puzzle out what this truly means, what this sword that she has strapped to her back is truly capable of. Loralynn, how does Loralynn approach this this rather rambunctious little gnome?
Well, Loralynn thinks he's rather amusing, but she's willing to let Sly do the talking. And her right leg, where she took that injury, although she's riding now, it still aches. And it's pretty distracting, so she's kind of just riding along, listening to Sly talk to the gnome. Hoping that she's going to find a healer when we get to the gnome town.
Right. And of course, he can't help but notice Honey kind of lolling, loping along beside you, Loralynn. And he, of course, has some questions about that. So is that your bear then? Did you trap it yourself?
Well, she's my comrade. I didn't trap her. I did help her, though. She was injured. And she's become a firm friend of mine.
He kind of looks at you askance as it's trying to measure whether or not you're telling the truth. You would learn in the time that you've traveled with him that he's a self-proclaimed professional trapper of the village. Having trapped several of these large spiders. He talks about a little bit about his village if asked. He's fairly open, and even if not asked, he just shares freely that they see it as some mission that they're set upon to help control the population of spiders here. So he's doing his part, and so you make good time. The day itself is actually rather moderate. Cool for spring, but the sky is somewhat cloudy, but there's no real heavy breeze. And by late afternoon, you guys can smell the burning cook fires from the village even before you see it. And then he leads you through a break in the trees, and you see the village before you just as the sun is starting to really kind of set off in the distance. So in classic form, we're going to read a little box text from the module for you guys, so listen intently. So the dark woods of the Spiderhaunt open into a large grassy clearing. Nestled in the hideout is a ragtag collection of mud brick huts and stone buildings. A large sandy area in the center of the clearing contains a blackened fire pit. Gnome children, wiry, loud, and full of wild energy, immediately stop their play and stampede over to the two of you. Are those heroes? A little gnome girl asks Madron as she runs up to them. How many dragons have you killed? A little boy yells to you, Sly. And there are just a multitude. They don't seem to even stop and wait for you to answer their questions, but you're just inundated with all these questions as these gaggle of children are kind of swarmed around you. Is that your bear? Can I touch it? Does it bite? Are you an elf? And they don't wait to hear the answer. They continue to come in like this mad tumble, allowing no time for you to answer. Various animals wander around, and others you can see in cages near the buildings. Between the animals' cries and the children's questions, the entire village has a feel of a surreal and out-of-control circus. Madarn seems unfazed by all of this, walking with slow deliberation towards the largest of the stone structures. As you disengage yourself from the children and follow, the door of the building opens and an old gnome with wrinkled leather skin emerges. He's dressed in brightly colored robes and is calmly making smoke rings with an ornately carved pipe. As Mardarn approaches him, you see him, he bows low, and he kind of peers over his shoulder at the two of you, or at the three of you, actually, because Sui would be with you as well. And he kind of just goes, as if indicating that you should bow as well.
I was writing, but at this point I get off and rather stiffly and manage a bow, hanging on to my new horse.
So I would also probably do some over embellished, flare of the hands as he also did a bow, respectively, of course.
And Sui does as well. The old gnome smiles and makes his way down the wooden steps of the porch. With one small hand motion, he waves you all forward. It's oddly quiet, and you realize that the clatter and movement of the village has stopped as you approached this doorway and this wizened gnome. Madarn has told me how he discovered your party, the priest begins, his low voice cutting through the air. Tell me, have you had trouble sleeping lately? He gazes intently at your faces. With a quick move, the gnome suddenly grabs Loralynn's hand, gently caressing it. Feathers of darkness do not belong on this skin, he says to you, and he smiles up at you, Loralynn.
Feathers of darkness? Oh, the dreams.
You've had the dreams.
Yeah.
You alone or the others too? And his old wizened kind of wrinkles around his blue eyes kind of cast to you, Sly, and to Sui.
Yes. Sly would not say one way or the other and just kind of now more inquisitively look at the old gnome and kind of see what he was about with this whole Feathers of Darkness business. He had ceased having this nightmare and this unnatural fatigue a little while ago, but he's definitely interested to know more about it.
You must tell me of this dream. Leave no detail out. I'm curious to know. Come, you look tired. Come into my house and I will offer you tea. I'm Telemas. I'm the... And he pauses, thinking of like the title that you guys might understand or might know. And he says, I am the elder here. Madarn, you join us as well. And he turns from you and starts to make his way back up the wooden steps onto the porch and into his house.
May I bring my bear honey with me?
He pauses at his door. He looks.
She's well behaved.
She is housebroken.
She'll be fine. Or Loralynn hopes she will anyway.
He grunts and his approval and disappears into his home.
So I would definitely, like, as they're moving, kind of look back to Loralynn and Sui and kind of give this, like, creeped out look, like, Okay, I guess this is what we're doing now, and make his way into the door.
Okay. So the three of you and Honey make your way in, and Martin as well. And it's by gnome standards, living in the forest, it's pretty lavish. It has simple carved chairs, tables, a warm fire is burning in the hearth. You can see a door that leads to another room. It's the larger of the buildings here in the village, but even like by Shadowdale standards, it's rather modest. And you can see that a kettle is warming on a hook near the fire, and he kind of turns from the fire where he's standing and just kind of smiles at you all and just says, "Have a seat. It'll be ready momentarily." And he just kind of waves towards the chairs around the table.
Loralynn directs Honey over where she wants her and encourages her to lay down, and then sits in a chair next to her.
And Telemas looks over to Martin and he says, "Fetch some cups, saucers." And Martin goes over to a cupboard and he starts opening a couple of doors until he finds where the saucers are. Saucer, is that the little plate saucer? Cups, yeah, cups and saucers. And he brings them to the table. And a few minutes later, Telemas comes over with a pot, and he starts pouring warm water into all of your cups. And then I don't know what they call those the balls that you would fill with tea. But
Tea-balls.
Yeah, T-balls, let's call that. Yeah, there we go. Simple.
I think that's what they call them.
That is it. All right, nothing fancy.
Not fancy.
So he comes back with a few of these T-balls that he then sets in each of your cups, and puts one in his own. And he sits down and smiles at you all and says, "So, who will begin?" And you just see Sui sitting there. She's just very methodically dipping her T-ball into her cup, and you could tell she's just just very stoic, expressionless. She has that, well, I guess with the exception of that painted on smile.
Yeah, Sly can tell. I mean, both by traveling with her for so long now that she's not. She's probably not going to be completely with it for them right now. She's probably plotting out their course for the next week or so, going about 250 steps ahead of everyone else. So he's just gonna roll with it and hope he doesn't mess anything up for her. So he kind of, as he's dipping his tea into the water, he looks to him. He says, "Start where?"
Well, I guess you should start at the beginning. When did you start having these dreams?
Oh, yeah. Loralynn, when did you start having these dreams? It's weird.
When we entered the forest, wasn't it, that we started having the dreams? Shortly after that?
I wouldn't know. I don't know what dream or anything you mean. I don't know. That's weird.
And what brings you here to the Spiderhaunt?
Loralynn looks over at Sly, who already had the story he'd given.
Oh, yeah.
Keep it straight.
Yeah, we're looking for a friend of ours. They seem to have. We believe that they might have gotten lost out here on an expedition, or not sure, something happened to them along the way. Either way, we're just meant to find them, or what's left of them, and report back, pretty simple stuff. You know, it's nothing important really.
He kind of listens to you, sips his tea, occasionally nodding his head. And that's when Martin speaks up, and he just kind of blurts out every little bit of information that you gave to him on the trip to the village. And so Telemas' eyebrow kind of raises a bit, and until he puts a hand up that quiets the younger gnome.
And as he was speaking, Sly would give that kind of crooked look as he sips his tea, like, really, dude? Really? You just gonna... Okay, great. He's kind of smiling and just like gritting his teeth. Okay, great. Let's take a sip.
Loralyn's kind of smiling a little because Sly's been caught kind of in his own trap of telling all these stories now, and he's going to have to remember them and keep them straight. She's going to try to stay out of it.
Yeah, Telemas turns to you, Loralynn, and says, young elf. Well, actually, you probably wouldn't say young elf because you can't really tell how old you are. Good elf. Are these dreams that you're having, are they connected with your friend that you said was lost here?
I'm not sure, actually.
Well, do you see them in the dream at all?
I remember, I think it was ravens and flying and dread. I don't remember seeing my friend. I'm afraid right now my leg is hurting and I'm not very, it's distracting.
Oh,
I took a mighty blow in our fight. My friends managed to save me, but just barely.
at that, Telemas gets up from his seat and just starts prodding at your leg, looking at the bandage.
Ow.
Well, this won't do at all. That won't do at all.
It's been healing, but not well.
You need to rest. I will mix you up some poultices. It will help with the healing.
Oh, thank you.
So in this dream, you are a bird, a raven.
I was flying. Yes, I think a raven.
Would it surprise you to know that I have had a dream similar to this?
Huh.
Yeah. So if you remember from your dream, one of the things is you had found yourself soaring up into the sky after sprouting these feathers all about your body, flying over the clouds and under the light of a moon. And every time your dream drew you to this tower. And it was just as you were alighting on the tower or would hear something at the tower that you would wake up.
Okay.
And in a disturbed state. And that you had found it harder to sleep after having these dreams.
Yeah, I do remember the being frightened and disturbed by them. And the flying.
Where were you flying to, dear child?
She hesitates for a moment. Sui doesn't seem to be too willing to give her any clues, but she just goes ahead.
Yeah, Sweet's just sitting there kind of steepled-fingered, watching this interaction, maybe getting some sort of, well, I would say pleasure, but that's an emotion.
But usually, Loralynn can lock eyes with Sui and kind of get a hint, just the smallest hint, if Sui thinks something's a good idea or not. But Sui's being particularly enigmatic tonight, and she's
she just has this the corner of her mouth is cocked up at an odd angle, and you would almost say a mocking smile as she looks at you, and then she kind of just nods.
Well, it seemed that we were going to a tower, and when I got there, I would wake up.
Ooh, tower, you say?
Mm-hmm.
And he looks over at Martin. A tower, Martin. And Martin kind of just looks down at his teacup, and then back up at Telemas, and it's only one tower that I know of. And Telemas nods and says, "Yes."
There is a real tower?
Yes, long deserted. They said a witch used to live there, a witch of this forest. It's been a long time since. At least that's what I thought. But then the dreams, they have plagued me. And I knew you were coming.
What did you dream?
Well, I dreamed of 3 ravens coming to the forest in search of salvation. I also dreamed of a bright silver light carried by the ravens that would drive away the darkness. And he points a little gnarled finger over at where Sui is sitting, and hanging on the chair behind her is the sword of the Dales.
So, okay. So about this tower, have you been there at all?
He shakes his head. No. I know where it is, but I've never been there. It's an evil place. My people will not go there.
Do bad things happen to those who go there?
I don't know. Never seen anybody go and come back.
Oh, fantastic.
That's not such a great sign, is it, Sly?
Yeah, I'm not digging the idea at all. And he kind of looks back to Sui and looks at the sword hanging on her chair, and is kind of nervously sipping at his tea now.
Telemas, picking up maybe that you're a little bit of your unease. He smiles reassuringly at you, Sly, and he says, "Do not worry. Do not worry, Halfling. Actually, he might know your name. I imagine you guys would tell him your names."
Probably at some point. We've told Marthin at least, and he probably spouted all of it.
Yeah, he says, "Do not worry, Sly. Madarn will go with you. Won't you, Madarn?" And that kind of shakes him out of whatever thought he was in, and he goes, "What? Yes, yep, certainly. I know the way."
Looking at the little gnome, Loralynn is not hugely reassured.
Yep. No, not a problem. I've been all over this forest doing my trapping. Shouldn't be a problem. I can keep you out of trouble too.
Let me ask you this, Martin. Do you know anything about some other folk messing about in these woods? Some real dangerous looking types.
These traders, merchants come in, trade with the village.
No, definitely not merchants. We actually had a bit of a run-in with some of them before we ran into you, but they would be members of the, and he kind of chokes the word out, the Zhentarim.
They both look at each other. They shake their heads almost in unison. Never heard of Zhentarim, but
Yeah, some right awful folks they are. Um, they are of a concern to me, and I just don't know if the tower on top of that it would really be. What would you do if you were to run into somebody like that?
uh, well, Mattern says best thing to do is to avoid it. I've seen some rough louts moving around through the woods lately. Um, Try to avoid them if I can. As long as they're not impacting my trade, I won't get in their way.
You think you'd be able to help us avoid them?
I know my way around this, and he kind of pulls out a small axe. Um, and Telemos kind of frowns at that, and he kind of sheepishly kind of tucks the axe back into the loop.
So Sly gets the impression that they're not trained to fight really other people or anything. At the most, they probably just hunt the animals herein. And I mean,
Well, you guys,
you
both can give me an insight check. I mean, you've spent some time with Martin.
see if he's adept at all. I've got nothing with like a 5.
However, I've got an 18 total.
Yeah. Right. As you kind of were riding along on your horse, Loralynn, and the gnome was just chatting away and asking questions of you as you traveled to the village, you noticed there was a certain way, even though he looked to be kind of laid back and just chatting to you, you noticed that his eyes were constantly alert, looking to where possible threats could be in the forest. You also notice there's a way that he carries himself that you've seen in the more experienced warriors of your clan.
Sly would have at that point when he kind of put his hand axe back. At this point, he's written him off, and he looks to Loralynn, knowing that Sweet's probably all the way checked out and not going to give a damn either way. But he would look to Loralynn to see if maybe she trusts their ability to keep them out of trouble.
Yeah, she catching you looking at her. She looks back and she kind of gives a little nod to let you know that she's seen some things. She's, as a ranger, she's pretty aware of the surroundings in the woods, and she could see that this little gnome was also. She didn't want to say too much, but she's kind of like,
yeah,
it'll be all right.
He would kind of like begrudgingly go with that because I mean, like, he doesn't really believe it, but if she believes it, that's good enough for him. So, I mean, he would look back to Martin then and say, "All right, I guess we'll have to trust you on that one."
Yeah. So as you guys are finishing your tea, the light is the sky is darkening outside as afternoon starts to give way to early evening. Telemas says to you three, says, "You are more than welcome to stay in my home for the night. Martin will not leave until the morning." And Martin kind of grunts in approval. He says, "Lots of preparation to do. Planning to be done."
I could use the rest.
That'd be lovely.
And he smiles at that, and he has Martin help get a couple of cots prepared in this main room of his home. And, they're just simple things, but anything, I guess, would be better than sleeping in the wild. Or you guys have been doing kind of roughing it for a while. And he feeds you just a simple stew that's kind of been cooking also in the fire. And so he ladles that out into some bowls for you guys. He even offers it's a it's a vegetable stew. It's got lichens and some mushrooms in it, as long as some roots. And it's actually rather tasty. And he offers a bowl to Honey as well. And unless you guys have any questions, he bids you good evening, Madarn. I can never say his name one way the whole time. So
You said it 3 different ways at least.
I know, because I look at it and it's just like it could be Madarn, but I like Madarn. See, that's why I like making up my own NPC names, because then it's
if you say it too much, it gets weird.
Yeah, it's like when you look at you spell iron, and then when you look at how it's spelled, you just like, that's not how it's supposed to be said. So Mattern. So Telemos says good evening to Mattern. He leaves, heading to his own hut where he lives. And I'm going to put up a picture of the village for y'all.
All right. Loralynn will send Honey out in the woods too after the stew to do what Honey needs to do.
So
Their business.
So you guys are staying
in the woods?
Yeah. So you guys are staying in D, which is Telemos's home. So that's where you guys are staying. And you would notice too that in the evening, the gnomes light a large fire in that fire pit at the center of the village, and it seems to be like visited by several of the inhabitants or the families of this village before folks kind of drift off, like probably early evening, sometimes an hour or so after their meals. Folks start to drift back to their homes, and then it's like quiet, peaceful. You start to hear the sounds of the forest, crackling of the fire up in the large fire pit, but even that slowly starts to fade to a dull orange glow. And you guys go to sleep. Are you doing any preparations or anything while you're sleeping, or are you just going to hunker down?
Well, as usual, Loralynn will be doing some meditations before she goes to sleep.
Right. As an elf, you wouldn't necessarily sleep in the sense that most other races do.
And
so we get to expend some more hit die on this.
Yep.
Because I am still not full.
Yeah, you could definitely use some hit die.
I think I'm at full hit points, but of course my problem with my leg has left me pretty crippled up.
Right, that's going to require magical healing. So one of the things that Telemos would do before you go to bed is he would redress your leg, Carol, and that would ease some of the pain. You can still feel the stiffness in it, and you're almost certain, you're not 100% certain, but you're almost certain that there was some weave of magic woven into this remedy that he has bandaged your leg, this compress that he has put against the wound. And yeah, so you can definitely use some expend some hit die. So you drift off to sleep, Sly. Loralynn, you're in your meditative state. I don't know if you're laying down on the pallet or whether you're just like seated upon it. I don't know how you meditate.
I sort of picture her sitting cross-legged with her back against Honey, and Honey laying down behind her.
Yeah.
And just taking a certain comfort in being that close to her friend. And
right. So the two of you drift off, and again the dream comes to you both. You sprout the feathers along your arms and body. You take flight, are flying across the evening sky, heading to the tower. But something's different in this dream. Sounds of screaming permeate the dream as you're flying, and you feel the air moving across your feathers. And immediately you jerk awake. And then you hear the screams are continuing, and they're coming from right outside the door of Talamas's home.
Is
What
it
do you guys do?
still is it still nighttime, or is it like?
It's definitely night. You can see darkness. There's a light glow of a fire in Telemasa's home. Through a few of the windows that look out onto the main courtyard of this village, it's dark.
So Sly's not at his best in the middle of the night, so he would like start awake and sit up, but look to Loralynn and see, knowing that she doesn't, really sleep the same way. See if maybe she knows, if she has any idea what's going on or anything.
Well, Loralyn's been having this dream, right?
Yeah.
So she's a little disoriented from the dream, but she jumps up and grabs her rapier. She's not wearing her armor because she was resting.
Right. Anyways, one of the things that brings you out, Loralynn, is that ping in your head from the sword that rests near your bed.
Oh, that's right.
And it warns you of danger.
She's like, Sly, Suey, get up.
Yeah.
Sly would get up and try and start gathering his stuff.
She grabs for her shield.
You hear a battering against the front door of Talamas's home. Honey has gotten up on all fours, and the hair between her front shoulders is just up, and she begins to growl. You hear a scraping and a battering against the door. The door at the far end of the room swings open, and you see a robed Talamas step out and says, "What is this? What evil comes to my house?" And that's when you notice that Sui's pallet is empty.
Well, damn. Are her things there, or is she all the way packed up?
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Even the sword is gone.
Shit. Yeah, so I would, at this point, as he's noticing that, probably have gotten, dressed and grabbing his instruments, and he'd be just about ready to spring to action for whatever's going on here. But he's still pretty tired, so not getting his full night's rest and having that kind of tormentuous dream.
Yeah. So
it takes several minutes to put on chainmail, doesn't it?
Yes. Let's
I don't think she's even going to bother.
Let's roll some initiative, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right. And Loralynn, what is your initiative?
That would be 8.
Okay. Okay. Sly, you go first. You hear this battering at the door. You can start to hear some of the wood start to splinter.
Yeah, and okay, so is this right out front of our door, or is this at the front of the house? And
the front door to Talamas's home. So you guys are in this.
Where we're staying.
Yeah, which is where you're staying.
Okay, yeah, we're in the common room, kind of. Okay, sure, gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, like his main room, where his like cooking hearth, table, and kind of like, it's his living quarter.
Gotcha. So, yeah, first thing that Sly would do is he's got all of his things now, and he sees Loralynn still not able to get fully donned in her armor, and so he's going to He would probably start pull out his lute and start plucking some chords to kind of I don't know, kind of stir them awake and basically just cast bardic inspiration for Carol.
Okay, perfect. So you kind of, it starts off kind of lazily as you're still waking up, kind of still probably shaking off the dream you had, and but then you get your confidence, Sly, and you hear that same confidence is transferred onto you, Loralynn. You hear a crack of the door, and you hear Telemas say, "Oh, damn," and you see him disappear back through the door. And you hear the sounds of him rummaging around. Loralynn, it's your turn. You get an inspiration die. What is it, a D6 or a D8 for you? D6?
It's a D6 still. Yeah, so it's a D6 that you can use on any... it's because I also took the Valor College, so it's to any, ability checks, attack rolls, or saves. And you can also use it to increase your damage, or as a reaction to increase your AC for one attack.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. Loralynn.
Yeah.
What is Loralynn doing?
Trying to decide what she's going to do here real quick. Now, has this whatever broken in?
Nope. You can hear the wood starting to splinter in the door, but the door seems to be holding.
I can't really cast a spell if I can't see it, can I?
If the spell says a target that you see, no.
Yeah, I was thinking Hunter's Mark, but that's the target I see.
Right. So yeah, you can do that as a bonus action when you see a target.
Oh, okay. You're right. So, other than just basically standing ready so that if something attacks her, she's holding an action to attack, like a ready to action.
Yeah, right.
She can direct Honey to kind of stand out in front of her at this point.
Yep. Perfect.
And have Honey ready in action to attack if something comes in.
And I just want to retcon a little bit. Sly probably would have made his way as he's doing that over next to Loralynn behind Honey. So they've kind of got this triangle formation going on.
Yep. Okay, good. And brings us back to you, Sly.
Yeah, so Sly, after casting some bardic inspiration, he is there any light still in the room? Like, is he able to see it all?
Dimly. There's what little bit of the embers are burning in the hearth.
Okay. That works well enough though. So, he will probably. I guess he'll probably. I mean, he would start just by calling out to whatever's there. He would say, "Who goes there? Who is that?" And then he would call back to what's his name? Darlin? Not Darlin.
Telemas?
The gnome's name? Telemas, yeah, sorry. Yeah. I don't know how I did that. He would call back to Telemas, "What is this thing? What are we doing here?" And probably grab out his short sword.
You hear a yell from the back room. Something that wants to get in. And he reappears in the doorway, and you see that he's holding like a gnarled wooden staff, somewhere between the size of a full, like 4-foot walking stick for him. And you see that there's like this holly hanging from it, and you see he has his easy expression from earlier has now been replaced by one of somewhat like stern determination, and you hear the door crack again, and you start to see some wood give way. You can see the movement on the other side of the door. Loralynn, it's your turn.
I guess she really still can't do very much. Is she able in any way to discern anything about what this being is that's trying to break in?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? Like, give me a perception roll.
Yeah. Maybe with perception she can come up with some idea whether it's humanoid or a creature or, you know. Oh yeah. That comes to a total of 20.
20. So beyond the door leading out into the gnome village, you can hear the sounds of the yells and screams. You can hear the sounds of combat. It sounds like it's several like pommels, maybe axes beating against the door. So it doesn't sound like it's one thing. It sounds like it's several trying to break their way into this home.
Axes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you hear and almost to actually punctuate that, you hear the sound of wood, of metal biting in and into wood, and the wood splintering beneath it. And what would Loralynn also like to do?
Just continue to hold her ready at action at this point. She can't see anything. There's no real thing she can actually do except to call out to Sly. It's something with axes, and so it's it's not creatures.
Yeah, you hear Taliamas says, "No, dear, something much worse than that. Steel yourselves, because you will need it." And he kind of stands up next beside you, Sly. And you see that the staff that he is holding begins to glow like a faint green. And he starts to chant. And it's your turn, Sly.
And Sly, kind of just caught off by all of this. And when Loralynn says that, she's like, "Oh, great! So it's people, fantastic!" And then Telemas comes over and his staff starts going. He's like, "Oh, I don't know how to feel about being on the receiving end of that." And does it look like they're about through the door?
Yeah, you see all kinds of. You see. You ever seen The Shining?
Yeah.
When Jack you see that the door is just kind of ripped apart, and you're starting to see the like humanoid forms moving through the dimly lit the other side of the door.
So he would then, let me see. So he would, at this point, just everything going on, he's tired of waiting for it. The anticipation's killing him. He says, "This is just ridiculous." And he's going to slide his short sword back into its scabbard and kind of walk forward, cracking his neck a little bit and rubbing his hands together. He's like, "I guess it's time to give this a shot." And you could see that he's kind of like wiggling his fingers and like loosening up. And he looks like he's doing some sort of weird aerobic stretches. And
Careful, Sly.
I'd like to just ready a thunder waves for as soon as they start to break through it all. As soon as he gets the impression that they're about to come in, he's going to stand right behind the door and just blast out a thunder wave. So just save that for
directional at all.
Perfect.
Sly. Or does that go out in a like cube or something?
Cube.
It's a 15-foot cube.
15-foot cube.
Are you going to warn me so I can back up?
No, he's in front of you. He moved forward.
Yeah, I'm assuming I would hopefully try and get far enough away.
Yeah.
So it would only go forward, really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to worry
It's
about
from
going
in
too
front.
far.
It's from him
Yeah.
onward.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
changed. Good time to use it.
Good news, Sly. You don't have to wait long, as there's this
Fantastic.
cracking, splintering of the door, and the door gives way, and several humanoid sized or human sized forms make their way in, except that they're totally devoid of any flesh. There's just this dull green glow and where their eyes glowing and where their eyes used to be. You see the remnants of their armor and their rusted swords and hand axes as they come in. And please cast your spell. And what is it? Would I have to make a save?
Glorious. Yeah. Constitution saves.
Okay.
Um,
DC of
it's sorry. DC 13.
okay. Fail and a miss. Save. So four of them make a save and 2 do not. What happens?
Right.
So you got to roll damage.
Yeah, so the damage, so it's the ones who don't make it are automatically pushed 10 feet away, and any loose objects would also be pushed. So I'm assuming maybe the door or something like that.
Yeah, so
be kind of
bits of wood just go flying out into the sanded courtyard of this village, as well as the two skeletons at the front just get blown back and tumble across the porch, and you hear them crumple. What's the damage?
They would take a full 7 thunder damage,
Okay.
and the other ones would take half that, the ones who made the saves. So I imagine that it's probably right as they break through the door, Sly gets a good look at him. He just goes, "You're some ugly bastards." And he's just going to kind of clap his hands in front of him, and just this thunderous boom just shoots out. And I mean, even he looks surprised by it, and his hair gets blown back. It also, if it makes any difference, makes a thunderous boom audible for 300 feet. So if that would wake up anybody else or attract anything,
you probably think that most people are awake in this village based on the screams and the sounds of fighting that you hear. But another good thing about that is you've probably just sent out like a little signal beacon, like, this is where you need to come. As that thunder thing kind of rolls out. And you hear Telemas say, "Well done, lad." And you see him, he's raised this staff and he's kind of just holding it up high, and it's just starting to glow very brightly green now. And he says, "Shantae, drive you back." And you see him set, and he says it very forcefully, and there's just this pulse of green magic that just kind of spreads out across the room and across these skeletons. And then Loralynn, you see a look of fear cross his face, and he says, "This is not right. Should drive them away." And he kind of takes a couple of staggering steps back. Loralynn, you can take your ready to action if you'd like.
Yeah, so you would like to first use your bonus action to cast Hunter's Mark on the closest one?
You cannot do that. You have a ready to action. Ready to action, you can only make your attack.
Gotcha. Okay, it's not actually my turn, so that makes sense. So yeah, she's going to attack the closest one with her rapier.
Yeah, so you see one of these skeletons that kind of just, it gets rocked by Sly's magic, thunderous wave. And I almost think like someone at like a concert, like they strum, but you said you clapped your hands. That's pretty cool.
That's probably what it sounded like, though, considering the bardic origin. It probably sounded like a guitar string.
Breaking.
And anyway, so the one that's closest, and it's bearing down on poor little Sly, with a hand axe raised up, ready to chop into his head.
Okay. That was a total of 19.
Yeah, that'll definitely hit it.
And make sure I get the right dice. I get to use a 1d6 on the damage count, right? If I want to.
Excuse me?
That bardic inspiration, does that go for damage as well?
I believe you can, right?
It does, yeah. Because I have the College of Valor.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I'm sure. This is a favorite. It's not a favorite enemy. I've got humans and orcs, I think. Favorite enemy. So I don't get the favorite enemy thing, but
So it's a D8, D6 plus your modifier.
right, which is 4. Okay,
Plus
so
4, I believe.
that would be a total of 11 points of damage.
Perfect, yeah. So you fire this arrow into this skeleton and it just shatters its rib cage and it just seems to lose all cohesion and its bones and armor just and hand axe just shatter and just collapse onto the floor in front of you, Sly, just as its axe is getting ready to come down. And with that, two of them kind of just jerkily come in and lunge at you with short swords behind this one. One is a 16 and the other one's going to probably be a miss at a 4. So I think that'll hit.
Probably. Don't count me out.
Okay.
That 4, man.
Yeah.
Yep, that's just going to hit.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to take 5 points of piercing damage as you nimbly step aside one of their attacks, but that kind of opens you for the other one, and you feel the short sword just kind of graze across your midsection, and you feel it cut through your flesh, probably superficially for right now, but they just looks at you and it just goes, and the other 3 just kind of shamble past you. And I believe Honey probably would have a ready to action, so she could make an attack.
All right. Find the right page. Okay. Yep, she's going to do her. Okay, she's going to do her bite attack.
Actually, let me correct, because I forgot 2 of them were actually knocked back, so only one moves past Sly.
Okay.
Towards, and it seems like he's going towards Telemas as Honey intercepts him, or intercepts it.
Good job, Honey. She has a total of 18 on her roll.
That will hit.
Okay, 1d4 plus 4. I gotta make sure I have this right. What do I add? Add her strength to that, wouldn't I?
Yes. Yep. It'd be her strength.
Okay, well, she actually rolled a 4, so she should get plus 3 to that, so she did 7 points of damage.
Okay, perfect.
Go, Honey. She's gotten tough.
So she just swats across. Oh, and wait, this is with her
bite.
that's bludgeoning damage. That's not bludgeoning damage. That's piercing damage.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So she tears off one of this skeleton's arm as it moves past her towards Telemas, but it still has the arm that's holding its short sword. And anyways, that would bring us to him. It would make an attack against Telemas, and it hits him. You hear Telemas kind of squeal as he pulls back, and you can see red crimson across his nightshirt as he's wildly waving this wooden staff to keep the skeleton at bay. Sly, back to you.
Okay,
With
so
hold it. Did I actually have my attack this round? I did my ready to action.
I think.
Oh,
but I didn't do an attack.
Yeah, it is your turn, Loralynn. Yeah.
Okay. No, you said I shot an arrow, but I was actually using my rapier.
Oh, I thought you had an arrow.
No. If you look up, I'll say I was using my rapier and shield.
Okay, so you moved forward then.
Yeah.
Along beside Sly. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't. I should have said that at the time. I was like. Anyway, yeah. So she's going to attack with her rapier again. Because I wouldn't have gotten a D8 for my longbow. Oh, I would have. Oh, well, it doesn't
Longbow's
matter.
a D8.
Yeah. Well, with that, I'm not going anywhere. I only rolled. Let's see, 4 plus 7. It's still 13.
Yep, 13 will hit.
Oh my gosh. All right, then that'll be 9 points of damage. I'm shooting the one that's attacking Talamas.
Okay.
Or not shooting, actually hitting, because that's the one that's
And how
right
much
there.
damage was it?
9.
Okay. Yep. So it's a pretty devastating blow. You drive your rapier deep, and you see several of the bones along its rib cage that kind of shatter through the blow. And you see it kind of waver and shake a bit. And now it'll bring us to Sly.
Now we got Honey's attack too.
Oh, okay.
She did the bite, right?
Well,
Yeah.
she did her ready to action, but she hasn't attacked.
Oh, I didn't know she had a ready to action.
I don't know.
Well, that's what you said it was. That's what
Okay.
at the time. I thought I'd ready to action.
I'm confused now. Rangers, man.
Well, we had ready to
Rangers.
actions, and when they came into range, then we did them.
Right.
Ready to action Rangers.
Well, technically, I don't think you ever moved up next to Sly, so you never should have got your ready action off if you had a rapier, because there's no threat near you.
Okay.
I thought you were using your bow when Sly moved up. I thought that's what you're doing. That was my bad. So it's all good.
Okay, because we could retcon it. It doesn't matter.
A little while since we've played, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Where are we at then?
Yeah, I think Honey will use her claw this time.
Okay.
And
On who, though? You need to let me know who the target is.
okay.
So there's one skeleton that seems it's pretty beat up. It's the one that ran past Honey that was attacking Telemas, and that's the one you just struck with your rapier. And then there's two threatening Sly right now, and you and off behind those two, you can see the other two that Sly had blown out the doorway, getting back up and moving their way back into.
Well, since I think she's probably moved up when she would attack the one that's attacking Sly or coming towards Sly that's closest to her.
Okay, perfect.
That's 11.
11 to hit?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a miss. So you said it was her claw, so she just rakes it across this thing's kind of moldy leather armor. But it kind of gives with the blow, so it doesn't seem to cause any significant harm. And Sly, it's up to you.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So, Sly. Yeah, so Sly is going to, as quickly as he possibly can, grab out his flute and unsheath his rapier, and pull that out and kind of take stance. And the one that had struck at him, he's gonna kind of whirl around his sword and see if he can't jab back. So attack. That is a 22 to hit.
Yeah, that'll definitely hit.
That make it?
Oh yeah.
And then we get max damage 10. So I imagine he
good.
Just as deftly as he can takes a jab.
You shatter the skeleton. It pulls back its short sword to drive it at you again, and creates this opening where you just cleave it, and it just loses all of its whatever magic is keeping it up is severed from it as it just clatters to the floor. With that, you hear a thrack, Loralynn, as Telemas shatters the skeleton between the two. Oh wait, no, was it Honey? See, now I'm confused. Are you with Sly? because it's like I don't know where each of you guys had gone, because there's two different fights that are happening. There's one over by Sly.
I'm up by the door.
Where there are two
I
skeletons.
moved up.
Now there's one.
I moved
And
up into
then-
the fight where Sly is.
Okay.
Me and Honey both, and Telemas is back with that one all by himself that we beat the tar out of.
Okay.
That's how I see it anyway.
Okay. So technically, I should have had an attack of opportunity against you as you moved away from that one's threat range to go and help Sly. But so that's my fault. I should probably have.
I didn't picture that right at all.
Yeah.
I have the whole. I thought we were all closer together.
No, well, his place is not that large, but it's large enough that you're leaving threat range. There's two definitely areas of combat happening because Sly said he had moved up to the door. So if you're moving up to where Sly is, you're not where Telemas and the rest of you guys
are. Right.
So,
anyway, I sort of picture myself as whacking that one on his way by towards Telemas.
Right. So, anyways, Telemas thwacks that one, and you hear the bones kind of and weapon kind of clank to the wooden floor, and you see the other two skeletons making their way in through the doorway, and so one of them, the one that's in front of you, Sly, will try to stab you. Probably not with a 10. We'll probably miss you.
15.
Okay. Perfect. You parry the blow away, and the other two come in. One attacks you, Loralynn, and one attacks Honey. And they're probably both going to miss. A 13 and a 13. I think a 13 will hit Honey, though.
A 13 will hit Honey. She's not wearing her barding.
Yeah, so that's 5 points of slashing damage as a hand axe comes through her fur. And the other one, I think your armor class is higher, right? You have a shield.
Yes, I have my shield. So my armor class is actually 16 with my dex.
Perfect. And excellent. And that would lead to you and Honey, Loralynn. So you're both facing down. There's 3 skeletons. Trying to press past the 3 of you to get to Telemas.
Well, I'm going to go... I sort of see myself like Sly on my left, me in the middle, and Honey on my right. That's kind of how I see it.
Sounds about right to me.
And the 3 kind of lined up in front of us. And I'm going to take what would be the right-hand one.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. I always have the wrong page in the wrong place. Oh, never mind. I don't. Okay, so that's 16 to hit.
Yep, that'll hit.
And 12 damage.
12. Okay, yeah. This one was already pretty shattered from Sly's, so you are able to put it down. You kind of batter it with your shield, and then you use that opening to drive your rapier in. Removing the skull.
Smash.
Removing the skull from the spinal cord, and
moving at the speed of light.
You see the light just dim in its sockets, and it just falls lifeless again to the floor. Honey?
I am going to, before we go to Honey, cast Hunter's Mark on the next one.
Oh, okay.
Having got all excited about that and then forgot.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. So you Hunter Mark the one that is on Honey.
Yeah, the one that Honey's going to attack, which is the one that was in the middle.
Perfect.
All these notes. Math. Yeah, I have to add on my fingers. It's going to come to a total of 12.
Okay.
Will that hit?
A 12? No, I thought that was the damage. 12 again.
No, she's using her claw again. She's got to wave it a little wild. She was going to, I don't know what she was thinking.
Yeah, so she's able. The skeleton is able to fight back the attack. It's again not able to get past this skeleton's defense. And that leads us to the top of the order. Sly, as you get ready to face this skeleton that's bearing down on you, you see two other forms, shadowed forms, appear in the doorway. You hear this, and they almost kind of crawl in on all fours, and you see their tongues lolling out. Their skin is all gray. And go. What do you want to do?
Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Well, he's still got a skeleton in his way, so he's just gonna. He kind of parried the first blow, and he sees Loralynn take hers, and these things crawl in, and he's just gonna. I mean, he almost. He probably grimaces, a little scowls a little bit, but he like almost resists having to say something about those nasty looking things. But he's just going to take another jab at this one in front of him, and that'll probably hit with a 21.
Yep.
I'm rolling good tonight.
Yeah, you are. Give me some good damage.
Oh, that's that 1 on the damage die, so that's a 3 total.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
what you get for bragging.
So you chip away. You chip away at this thing with your short sword, right?
My rapier.
Yeah. Oh, rapier. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so the skeleton drives its sword at you. 10 is going to miss. But it uses that opening. One of these shadowed forms just leaps at you. And as it does, it tries to grab you and sink its it opens its maw, and you just see gray, rotten teeth and this foul stench of its breath. It smells like decay. And that is going to be 16.
That'll hit.
Okay. So you're going to take 9 piercing damage as this thing just bites into your shoulder. You feel it tearing away your flesh, and you need to give me a Constitution save.
Con saves are my favorite.
Okay, perfect.
How many
I have
points?
a -1 con.
Oh, no. I thought you...
How many points of damage did that do?
It was 9 damage.
Yep, and that's going to be an 8, so
yeah,
we're looking good.
As it bites into you, not only does it smell, it hits your nostrils, but you feel your muscles just tense right up, and you hear, Loralynn, you hear a clatter as his rapier falls from his paralyzed hand onto the floor.
Yeah. I don't like it.
And you just see the thing rears back, and it's chewing on a bit of your flesh, and you see it getting ready to lunge in on you again. And you see the other form leap past this one and start running, loping towards Talamas. You hear Talamas scream, and you hear him scramble, but he's not fast enough as this thing leaps on him.
Would it go past me or Honey on its way through?
It's going the other way.
Okay.
Around the way.
So we don't have an attack of opportunity as it goes by?
No.
Okay.
And let me see. I think there's the skeleton will attack Honey, and that's a nat 1, so that totally whiffs. And it is your turn, Loralynn.
All right. I am going to go after that creature that knocked Sly down and paralyzed him.
Okay. So the skeleton near Honey would be able to reach you.
I would have to.
Yeah, I still have a skeleton in front of me
I
too.
think
So
we're pretty close together, but I guess we're not that close together.
No, no. I mean, you are, but you're not. Like you're spread across, so it's like Sly, Honey, you.
Okay.
So as you pull away
I'm going to go ahead
that one,
and take that chance, and basically going to stand over Sly and attack this other thing.
So your armor class is 16?
It's 16.
Yep. And so you hear it rake against your shield as you spin to go and help Talamas, who has been not getting gnawed upon, much like Sly.
No, I'm going to help Sly.
Oh, you can help Sly. Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want that thing to attack him and kill him while he's down.
Okay. Yeah, so he's still up. I thought you were going to help Talamas, but same thing.
Oh, well, he's paralyzed though, right?
yeah.
As you catch out of the corner of your eyes, you run over to help Sly. You see that same rigid fear on Telemas as you see on Sly.
Wait, okay, now is he actually paralyzed? Like he's incapable of doing anything? I guess I don't really quite understand what's
Who?
going on there.
Think of like
Sly?
Frozen, a statue, right?
But he's basically helpless, right?
Yeah.
I described what you would see.
I mean, I dropped my sword.
I can't get into the mechanics of the game because Loralynn doesn't know the mechanics of the game.
But he's standing there having dropped his sword.
Rigid fear on his a frozen look of fear on his face and his rapier falling out of his hand. So that's what she sees. And she sees out of the corner of her eye.
Standing, though.
Right. Yeah, it's holding on to him because it's going to chomp him again.
Yeah, well, I see it about to chomp on my friend again, and I'm going to attack it.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, they're not rolling that great. That's 11.
11 does not hit. You drive your rapier, and it kind of weaves underneath it. It just kind of hisses at you, and you just see Sly's blood smeared all across its lips and cheeks.
She swears to herself.
No, thank you.
She's like, okay, honey, get that skeleton. Honey's going to go after the skeleton that's in front of her because it's got Hunter's mark on it. Does it count for her?
Sure. I think we'll use that if it's something that benefits you. It should benefit your companion too.
Oh, since she rolled a nat 20 on her bite.
Well, you don't bother rolling the damage because it doesn't have that much left.
Waste of a 20, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's not a waste. You killed the skeleton with it, so she just shatters the skeleton.
Just smacks it with a paw, and all pieces go everywhere.
Yeah, perfect. And so that leaves one skeleton and these two gray-skinned, scantily clad. I mean, their what clothes they have on are all tattered and soiled.
They sound horrible.
They're like people thing. They look like dead people. Like
they look like
ghouls.
Something nasty. Yeah, something that would.
Would they be considered human for the purposes of favorite enemies?
No. They would not
I don't know. Human. I mean, Loralynn doesn't know what they are.
Yeah.
I don't either.
And so the thing that looks at you, Loralynn, it just, as it kind of licks these bloodied lips, it says, "Your next shelf." And Sly,
that's awful.
You are frozen in place.
I'm not happy about this at all.
Save, or am I just stuck?
Yep. So you can repeat it at the end of your turn. So you can make another con save.
Okay, let's give it a shot.
Yep.
Oh, that's a nat 20 though, but
perfect.
19 total.
Yeah. So something about as it turns and looks at Loralynn, that rigid fear in you kind of gives way, and you can feel your muscles start to relax, and your fingers kind of instinctively kind of twitch a bit. But of course, you don't feel the rapier in your hand.
It's the voice. It disgusts him. He's just like, ew, 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 ew.
Yeah.
Stop, ew.
So, so one of the skeletons will try to strike you, Sly, and that is going to be an 18. So you're going to take five piercing damage as it kind of runs its short sword across your leg, just below your hip, and this thing again tries to muckle onto you, and that's going to be a 14.
It does not. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So it kind of grabs at you, and you're able to like kind of shove it away, and then poor little Talamas you just hear this kind of, and you hear this tearing of linen cloth, and that kind of sound of flesh being ripped. And that will bring us to you, Loralynn.
Well, I'm engaged with this one that is fighting Sly. I'm going to move my hunter's mark onto him since the skeleton's dead.
I was going to remind you, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That comes to a 12.
12 to hit?
Yeah.
Yep. The one you're hitting the gray-skinned thing? Yeah.
That'll hit?
Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, really. Okay, what do I get? I get a 6 for the hunter's mark?
Yeah, D6.
Okay. That's 11 points of damage.
Okay.
And Honey's going to go after it with her bite attack. And she's going to miss.
Okay. Perfect. And Sly, you're up.
All right, so as Sly kind of takes this shot to the leg, and this thing kind of goes to, as it goes to bite at him, Sly kind of, locks eyes with it with that, and he's got this kind of angry scowl on his face, and he swats it away, and he kind of backs up, like favoring the one leg that wasn't, favoring the leg that he just hit. He's bleeding, and especially from his shoulder where he was bit, it's bleeding pretty profusely, and he's breathing really heavily, and he's got that that kind of unconsciousness about him almost. He's kind of into that zone that he's been into the last few bouts, and he's gonna try and he's gonna take his hands and just kind of like scratch at this thing. But as he does so, you might just catch a glimmer of this electric field around them. That'll hit with a what's that, like a 18, I guess, but
Yep.
it'll hit. And I'm using Shocking Grasp, so it's 1d8, 2 lightning damage.
Okay.
He just kind of swats at it.
Okay. So it kind of tenses for a second, and I don't believe it has reactions, I think. Perfect. And that would bring us to the undead. So this thing's is going to try to finish you off. Sly. 18.
That'll do it.
Yeah, so you're going to take 9 more damage, and I need another con save.
That'll down me, so.
Okay, so you're going to automatically
fail
the con save. So you see Sly just go limp in this thing's hand, and right after he kind of goes limp, and then all of a sudden you see his muscles just tense right up, and he just unnaturally just kind of crumples, or not crumples, but falls on the floor, and this thing kind of drops like over him, and the skeleton lunges at the large bear, misses with a 2.
Is that the last skeleton?
Yeah, it's the last skeleton.
Okay.
And you hear like a kind of this crunching snap, and you see the other gray form kind of lift up from the still form of Talamas, blood smeared all over its face. And it is your turn, Loralynn.
Loralynn mutters under her breath, "Damn that Suey, where is she?" And she's gonna take another attack at the one that has Sly. Oh, and that 20.
Nice.
Now we're talking. Now I did the hunter's mark damage too. I rolled it all together. Do I double the hunter's mark damage?
So you do max damage, hunter's mark, your weapon, and then roll each of those die and add that to that, then add your ability.
All right.
So you're going to do 14 base, then you roll the D8 and the D6, and then just add your dex bonus to it. But can I tell you right now, you're going to kill this thing regardless of what you roll. because that
Yeah,
is
because
enough.
it's about 26 damage when we're done with it.
So so I'm interested to hear how Loralynn kills this thing. I mean, because it's something a little bit more than just a simple kill.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's really wound up. She's not happy to see her friend go down. And remembering all those times she's had together, she just kind of like twirls that rapier in the air and just reams it right into this thing, basically cutting it in half. And whatever ick or nastiness is inside it kind of comes oozing out as it falls on the floor.
Yeah, it just sprays out across your arm and across the front of your clothing, Loralynn, and like you said, it just falls slick on the floor. It just gurgles as it dies. But you see that your friend is bleeding rather profusely from two pretty vicious bite wounds.
I don't think Honey can do anything for him.
No.
I don't have anything left that I could do this turn.
So Honey still has a skeleton that is threatening her, and then there's the other gray thing that is rising up off of Talamas and turning its head and hissing towards the three of you.
Something. That's all there is to it.
What's Honey doing? Getting rid of the skeleton?
She's going to deal with that skeleton. I'm moving my Hunter's Mark to it if I can.
You can.
Okay. And it'll be her claw attack.
Yep.
That didn't roll the right thing there. Okay. Claw attack. That would be 14 to hit.
14 will hit.
Okay, and that is 11 points of damage.
That is, and it was bludgeoning because she clawed, or claw is slashing, right?
I think her claw is slashing.
Yeah, it's enough anyways. So she just reaches across and just shatters. Bits of the skeleton just go flying or cast across this room, crashing against the wall. And she just kind of, and that brings us to Sly. You've failed your first death save, I think you said. Yeah?
Yes, okay. I did. So he's probably just bleeding out, still stiffened.
Okay. Which
that's only his first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You hear the sick loping sound of bare feet and the slapping of bare blood-soaked hands as this thing lopes towards you and lunges at you, Loralynn. And almost a nat 20, but it drops on it too. So you get your shield up in time and it just starts clawing at your shield. It's your turn. I imagine you can move your Hunter's Mark to it.
Okay, this is the one that was on
Talamas.
Is now on me. Is that the only thing that's left to fight?
Yep.
Super duper. I am going to... Yes, I move my Hunter's Mark, and I'm going to attack it with my rapier. That's not too bad. That's 19 to hit?
Oh yeah, definitely will hit. This thing is not armored in anything.
And 15 points of damage.
Okay. Yeah, you drive your rapier deep into it, and it just kind of crazily howls at you. Honey's turn.
All right. Well, Honey's going to... Let's see, get the right dice together here. She's going to attack it with still with her claws. Oh, a nat 20.
Oh, nice. She's hot.
Yeah, no, she's got the Hunter's Mark.
I'm thinking I think Honey's going to kill this thing regardless of the damage you roll.
Okay, because it would be a D6.
Only because it's your max base damage plus you roll, and it only has 7 hit points left. So she just rips.
Oh yeah, I just flat out rolled 9 points of damage. So
yeah, she just rips this thing apart, and you can hear kind of is fewer cries and screams outside of Talamas's home. A form appears in the doorway, much shorter than the others. You recognize it is Martin. He's scratched and bleeding from several places.
Yeah.
He's holding his axe in his hand, breathing heavily. He said, where's Talamas? Oh, give me another death save, Sly. Because we're at the top of the order.
Nat 1.
Oh, geez, you're dead?
Oh, crap. I was just going
Does
to
that
heal
count
him.
for 2?
That's 2 death saves.
No, that's not okay.
Sly bleeds out
Oh,
on the floor.
man.
Oh, damn. I don't like
That is
that.
not okay. I was gonna heal you the next thing I did.
Oh,
He
shit.
didn't even give me a chance because he used up my 6 seconds
That one.
with Martin, and I was just gonna tell him to go deal with Talamas and heal you.
No, because Martin is at the end of your turn where you just killed these grayskin things.
Yeah, well, no, I know it's. I can't help it though. I mean, there was nothing I could do, and I was just.
Well,
I had my
I guess
plan
you could have reached down and healed Sly rather than attacking the grayskin.
Well, I thought I had two rolls. I didn't expect the nat 1. That got me.
No.
I thought, okay, I can try to take this guy out, and then whether I take him out or not, I'm gonna heal.
I want Sly to take a moment and kind of just describe for us what happens when you first go down, Sly. What, if anything, happens?
Wow, that's that's rough. All right, so I imagine that probably towards the end there, he was kind of starting to get this. He was kind of starting to go into that feral state, and his hair matted and tangled a mess as he lay there on the ground, stiffened. The last things going through his mind is his eyes just getting clouded, and he remembers. He goes back and he remembers certain things. He remembers, fighting the Zhentarim in the field. He remembers, fighting the minotaurs in the dungeon. He remembers having a dance battle with Sui, and all of these memories flush to his mind, and they start to fade as he just loses himself to this instinctual feeling, and eventually all it turns into is just this panging hurt, and all he can feel is the pain as it just fades slowly, and then eventually nothing at all. And I just imagine his body probably after the whatever venom kind of fades, it just falls limp, and his nails long, his skin rough, coarse, and his eyes slitted and green, but there's nothing in them.
So, Mattern's in the doorway. Loralynn, your eyes drift to your companion as you and Honey take out the last threat.
Right.
And you look down, and it's just as this last shuddering breath escapes Sly's lungs. And like he said, you see those green eyes.
Yeah, you look
Those
at them and there's nobody there.
Yeah, staring blankly at you.
And her eyes start to just fill with tears. And she calls out to Martin, Can you take care of Talamas? Or do you need help? He's injured badly. He's down too.
You don't have to. You're not even done saying that, Loralynn, and he's already moved past you when he sees the fallen form of Talamas. And then you hear him wail. He goes, "Shantae, no!" And he drops on his knees. His axe clatters to the floor, and he picks up the lifeless form of Talamas into his lap. He's kind of cupping the older gnome's head, blood his own blood all over it, getting across, and mingling with that of the injuries that Martin has. Tears in his eyes, he looks at you and he says, "What did you do? You let them kill him."
I couldn't help him. They killed my friend too. And she just starts to cry.
Martin says, "I don't care about your friend.
Well, I do.
You let Telemas die. Don't you know how important he is?"
No.
And you see his sorrow is replaced with rage as he's pulling close this old, now it looks really fragile gnome. Honey kind of moves up next to you and nuzzles your hand. Kind of startles you a bit, Loralynn, as you're kind of in this sense of this almost this shocked melancholy, as her wet nose touches your hand.
Yeah. She's just basically just crying, and she's like, "Suey, where are you? Where did you go?
Yeah, you have
Why
no
weren't
idea.
you here?"
You probably harken back to when Sui's done this before with you. Even before you met Sly, she was off to just kind of go off and do her own thing and not tell anyone. She's even done it with you after you had met Matthias and Sly. She disappeared for several days when you were in Shadowdale. Seems that she has done this again. Maybe you have some doubting thoughts whether or not she intends to return at all. She's taken the sword with her.
Right.
Martin, you see anguish return to his face. He's just kind of rocking back and forth, humming something to the dead form of Telemas. Outside, you can hear the screams and the sounds of fighting replaced with crying and wails as others are finding out who has died in this onslaught. You'll be okay, Carol?
I'll be fine. Sly's not supposed to die.
He's not supposed to. I know.
With his luck, he never.
I wouldn't have wanted myself to die either. It wasn't part of the plan.
I don't think anybody in this game right now expected that to happen. That shocked the crap out of me.
Damn.
I was just like, I thought about trying to heal him before I took that thing on, but I'm like, if
hindsight is 20/20. I mean, I think you played it out well. I mean, you got to take care of the threat. You know, I almost had the it was a ghoul. I almost had the ghoul jump on Sly and just kind of rip at him more.
I was afraid
you
of
and you and Honey presented way too much of a threat.
Can't use inspiration on death saves.
No.
Don't you have halfling luck where you can re-roll a 1?
Oh.
I mean, I do. Does that count for death saves?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh shit. Oh shit. It's a 5, but
well, if it's a 5, you survive another turn, and I can heal you.
Yeah, but oh shit.
Here we're all. Like, resting you in pieces.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I was totally ready.
I'm not aware that. I keep thinking you of as a gnome, so it even dawned on me.
So. No. I guess they do get reroll natural ones, which I haven't used at all, which is just the best metagaming ever. But
I said luck, it was all of a sudden like, oh yeah, you guys are lucky.
So
I didn't know if.
Actually, this is perfect.
Death saves counted for anything.
Yeah. Unless it says it under your halfling luck, it says death save. You can't do it on death saves. Then yeah, of course you can.
It says,
Let me double check because I wouldn't
when
want
you
to.
roll one on D20 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the dice and must use the new roll. That's a saving throw, isn't it?
It's called a death save.
Okay, well, it doesn't say anything about that.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to you.
The only difference with a death save is you don't get to add anything to it. It's just a straight up roll.
So then, yeah, that would take the 5 then.
Yep.
So
as you're sitting there crying, and you know those blank eyes are staring up at you. All of a sudden, you hear this.
Yeah,
there's a cough, and there's a little gout of blood that comes up, and the eyes kind of flutter for a second and then close. But you see ragged breath. Good remembering that, Carol.
Yeah, as soon as the word luck came out, I'm like, oh, I've played a lot of halflings.
Hats off to Carol for literally saving my life.
Yeah, halflings should almost never roll a 1 because they should, on their reroll, even if they fail, it shouldn't be another 1.
I completely forgot that existed and have not used that for this entire campaign. So
what you gotta do when she sees there's a little life fluttering in there is to lay your hand on and cast Cure Wounds.
Excellent. I'll take it.
That's a good idea.
I want to make sure that this, kind of stays with us.
Yeah, man. Shit. I was thinking, I was like, damn, how would we even get anyone else into this tightly knit group? Like, Swee's already.
Oh, I know.
Sweet.
7 points for you.
We wouldn't even be able to work. I'll take it.
So yeah, you quickly kneel down next to Sly, and your mind is just a muddle, Loralynn, and it's only through rote action that you're able to channel the magic quickly through. And it kind of he kind of arches his back for a second, takes in a deep breath, and he kind of falls back to the floor. And that you notice that some of his wounds are starting to slowly scab over, and you see that his breathing is much more relaxed. His eyes flutter open and look up at you, Loralynn.
She just kind of leans over and gives him a hug, just crying all over him. I thought you were dead. I was so sure you died, and then you took a breath, so I healed you.
And as she kind of embraces him, he winces. I wish I was dead.
Yeah, it still hurts for sure.
Yeah.
And then you feel this big wet lick up across the side of your face as Honey comes up next to you, and you hear her nose sniffing at you.
And he kind of puts his hand up. All right. Shit.
In all of Loralynn's joy, she suddenly realizes that this may make her even more in trouble with the gnomes. Because I couldn't bring back Telemas, but you were only almost dead.
Yeah. And you feel like, how you have that sense when somebody's really close to you. And as you look over, and Honey looks up too, and you see the hair start to come up on her, between her shoulder blades, and standing there gripping his axe is Martin. Blood just soaking the tunic that he's wearing.
And as Sly's getting his way up, he's like, "Are they gone? Where's Tallymas, that old coot?"
I don't think he made it, Sly.
You sure? Let me take a look at him. And he kind of staggers to his feet, and he pulls out his flute. He's like, "I've gotten used to this." And he'll go over and
you start to walk over that way, and Martin puts the head of his axe against your chest, and that carefree, easy-go look that he had before is replaced by a stern, almost cold demeanor. He says, "You'll not take a step closer to him. You failed him.
You want me to heal him or not?
He's dead.
We're losing time here. Let me try. I've done better." And he thinks back to Matthias and how he failed, but he thinks back to Matthias and thinks, I've seen worse. So
he just kind of, and he pulls the axe, but he pulls the axe away.
And Sly will
steps aside to let you go towards Telemas.
Sly will hurry over there, not knowing how long he might have been out, and kind of like gauge his condition. And before he can even really get where he's at, he'll just start playing his tune, his same melodic tune, and try Cure Wounds, see if that will.
So you put the flute up to your lips and you get ready to play, and then you look down as you're getting ready to play, and you see this horror-stricken, blood-spattered face of Telemas, and you see his throat has just been ripped open and bare almost to the spinal cord. His head.
Yeah.
So you chant, you finish the magic stubbornly, and nothing happens.
And he would probably, as he finished his song, open his eyes and just see the still not even the wound attempting to heal itself. His magic is really only to amplify, bodily functions, and the body not even attempting to heal itself over. It's, he knows it's not happening, and he kind of pounds the ground a little bit. He's upset. He hates seeing people, especially kind people close to him, suffer like that. And he'll turn back to Martin and be like, "I'm sorry."
Martin and he takes his axe and he buries it deep into the table. And he pushes past you without a word, and he picks up the body of Telemas. And he starts walking towards the shattered door. He says, "You can finish your rest here. Promised him that I would take you to the tower. And I will do that." And then he walks out onto you hear his foot falls on the wooden porch. And he walks off into the night carrying the dead form of his friend and mentor, Telemas, the Dreamweaver.
And
I think we'll end this session right there.
Sounds important.
He was.
I know.
Oh, shit.
And so we'll end the session right there, guys. Great. So glad. I think I'm a strong believer that let the dice roll where they might, but I'm not going to lie. I was sad that I thought Sly was gone.
Not feeling
but
it.
Thank you, Carol, for remembering the one rule. You need to put that someplace big and where you can see.
I will. Yeah, got it.
Anyways, great session. We're going to be getting up another session here pretty soon. And hopefully we will get a good series of games out of the way, and we'll wrap up this 3 module campaign. Thank you guys for playing. It was really fun. And everyone else, we'll see you on the other side.